Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker for the day, Cheng-Sim Lim. Cheng-Sim Lim is a national Bernie delegate. She's a film creator, immigrant, Medicare For All activist. She serves on the board of Healthcare for All Los Angeles and is a member of the Progressive Asian Network for Action and DSA LA. And I recently had the privilege of sitting on a panel that she organized that should have been really the Democratic National Convention, the Beyond Bernie Convention, and People's Assembly. Everyone, please welcome Cheng-Sim Lim.
Hello, People's Convention. Thank you, Nick Brana and event organizers for convening all of us here today. My name is Cheng-Sim Lim. I'm an immigrant. I came to this country 41 years ago at the start of the Reagan era. My lifetime in this country maps exactly the neoliberal ascendancy. And it is this experience of neoliberalism that values profits over human life and dignity that has brought me here today. I want to keep within my allotted time, so I'll go right to how I became a Medicare For All activist and why I think the single payer movement cannot rely on the Democratic Party. In 2007, I underwent treatment for breast cancer. That experience opened my eyes to the gross inequities of the American for-profit health insurance system. At first, I didn't understand why getting healthcare had to be so complicated. My doctors had to check if what they wanted to prescribe was covered by insurance, and I would get bills months afterwards for stuff I couldn't easily decipher. Still, I was one of the lucky ones. I had health insurance. Two of my friends who were dealing with serious illnesses didn't have health insurance, even though they worked full time. Their jobs didn't come with health insurance. And I couldn't imagine going through my cancer treatment further stressed about how to pay for it. So my growing awareness of how unjust our healthcare system was led me to volunteer on the 2008 Obama campaign. Candidate Obama had a healthcare plan with a public option. By that time, I had learned enough to prefer single payer, in which everyone would have comprehensive and high quality healthcare that is publicly funded. But I had yet to learn enough not to fall for the Democratic lie. And they're still telling that lie, that the public option, which preserves everything that is wrong and costly with the current system, could be sustainable and lead to universal healthcare. It took me another year to learn as a volunteer for Organizing for America, or OFA, helping to get the Affordable Care Act passed, that as inadequate a reform as a public option was, it was still only a bait and switch. Our volunteer group had collected thousands of constituent letters to send to members of Congress for the public option. And we were puzzled why President Obama didn't seem to care to fight for a key plank of his campaign and allowed the public option to be killed in the Senate when Democrats had a filibuster-proof majority. When we asked questions, we were told by the then OFA chief, "Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good." And this was the Obama mantra. And this is the same OFA chief who went on to be President Obama's re-election campaign manager in 2012 and to advise the British Conservative Prime Ministers David Cameron and Theresa May on their election campaigns. I think it's telling how easily a Democratic operative can move between the Democratic and Tory parties, right? Don't you? At any rate, I subsequently learned from press accounts that the Obama administration was cutting deals behind the scenes with big pharma and hospital associations to drop the public option in exchange for their acquiescence on the ACA. This was happening while we volunteers were being told to gather support for the public option. And meanwhile, in California, where I live, we saw that Democrats could pass single-payer healthcare, which the California state legislature did in 2006 and 2008. When there was certainty the bills wouldn't be enacted. In this case, Republican Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger vetoed both single-payer bills. But once we had a Democratic supermajority in the state and a Democratic governor, and there was no longer a Republican to give cover to Democrats to perform as progressives, but not do anything real to upset their corporate donors, Democrats couldn't pass single payer. So flash forward to 5 weeks ago, I was a Bernie delegate to the Democratic Convention. In the middle of a pandemic, when the COVID count, and it's worse now, was 4 million Americans afflicted, 150,000 dead, over 14 million newly unemployed since March and without health insurance. And you add these nightmarish numbers to the already crisis level, 70 million uninsured or underinsured before COVID. All disproportionately Latinx, Black, Indigenous, and Pacific Islanders. The Democratic Party still couldn't bring itself to acknowledge the need for life-saving Medicare for All. The DNC Platform Committee voted down Medicare for All. Then, during the Democratic Convention, while a parade of Republicans got to speak on the DNC broadcast, Bernie delegates would type in the Zoom chat of DNC meetings that we need Medicare for All and the Green New Deal, found themselves blocked from posting the rest of the meeting. That was the level of pettiness the DNC went to silence any mention of Medicare for All. I could cite other examples, but I'd run out of time. To sum up, in my lifetime in this country, I've seen no evidence the Democratic Party will deliver Medicare for All on its own. We need massive, massive pressure from the outside. One way to do that is through an anti-oligarchy People's Party that is serious about organizing to contest for power. So how about we do it?
There's so much in there that I loved. I was absolutely, just right out of the gate, it's just policy, strategy and policy, talking actual real, providing you with real information. And there was some really just stunning information that she provided in there. And I was not aware of this. This is this kind of stuff that you only see when you're really working on the inside and trying to, fight from the inside there. And so she saw this up close and personally. And I thought that some of the things that she said that really, the key point that she hit on that absolutely struck a chord with me was the point that she made about how Democrats, and she saw this from the inside in two places, both in California and in the National Democratic Party under the Obama campaign. She saw this in two different places. And it was the way that the Democrats will, when they are the opposition, they will, act like they're fighting like hell, and they'll pass all this progressive legislation when they know that progressive legislation cannot pass. So for instance, you see like Kamala Harris co-sponsoring Medicare for All, right? But then as soon as the debates roll around, she's not so much for Medicare for All anymore. She's not comfortable with the idea of Medicare for All. Yeah, by the time that they get into power, it's not just not comfortable with, they will be hostile towards Medicare for All. And they will be, at best, what we might get is a public option. They talked about it with some of their Medicare for All who want it plans. That was the big neoliberal, push was for a public option. And even she highlighted how, Obama, he had the rhetoric of a public option even going into his, going while he was campaigning. And Obama campaigned as a progressive. He governed as a neoliberal, but he campaigned as a progressive. Go back and watch some of Obama's campaign speeches. That's what brought people out there. And that's what got him such high, turnout from the young folks I was one of them, was his rhetoric about, he had this rhetoric of change and hope and change. And we were going to really, make fundamental systemic change. And so go back and watch Obama, campaigning. He's super progressive when he campaigns. And so I thought that was a very telling point when she talked about how they fight when they're the opposition. They'll fight like hell. But as soon as they gain power, all of a sudden now, these same folks that were, acting like, oh, we got to pass all this legislation, UBI, and, you have all these people that are neoliberals that are, feigning support for these policies right now. But then as soon as they get into power, and if this happens, if they do get into power, which is now a big if at this point, if you've looked at recent polling, particularly in battleground states. Just a quick aside right now, if anyone's not aware of it, Biden is doing worse than Hillary Clinton was at this stage in the battleground states, okay? And his enthusiasm is up already, but beyond the enthusiasm gap, which he definitely has, there's definitely an enthusiasm gap. People are not enthusiastic about voting for Joe Biden. They are simply casting a vote against Donald Trump, not for Joe Biden. For the vast majority, literally the majority of people, not the vast, but the majority of people, 52% are voting against Donald Trump and not affirmatively for, it was 66%. Sorry, I think it was 66% at the last count. And so they are voting against Donald Trump, 2/3. And it's the opposite. 2/3 are voting for, in the affirmative, for Donald Trump. So of his supporters. So people are enthusiastic about Trump. They're not enthusiastic about Biden. And now the race in the battleground states has really tightened in the past few weeks. And this is with a global pandemic and Trump just completely fumbling and, just botching the response to COVID-19. We're in the middle, just mass unemployment, the greatest depression in U.S. history. Sorry if you had the barking, doing some dog sitting here. I like that bit that she gave about how the Dems have that consultant, the Dem party consultant was able to go and start consulting for the Tory party, and just shows how they are, that's the Conservative Party in the UK. And those folks have similar ideologies. So it's fine. You can transition very easily from a Democratic Party campaign to a, conservative, UK Tory campaign. So that was also telling. I love that quote that she gave where that same consultant was telling her, and this was somebody that was working on the Obama campaign, was telling her, listen, this is when the Democrats had a filibuster-proof supermajority in in Congress, and they held the executive branch. Obama was president. They could have passed any legislation they wanted. The way that Republicans just ram through whatever they want, repeal and don't replace Obamacare. They'll ram that through. They'll ram through tax cuts, that tax act, that tax cut for the rich act. They'll ram all that stuff through. No problem. When they're giving away money to billionaires and corporations, they will ram that stuff through Congress. But, when the Democrats hold power, they don't, because that's not what they're both serving the same corporate donors. And so two sides of the same coin here, unfortunately. So that was all very telling. I thought that her highlighting that, and just, it's a thing that I often speak on, not nearly as, just clearly and powerfully as she spoke on it here. But I try to relay that point, but I haven't ever done it as well as Cheng-Sim did here. And so, props to her, and just thank you for doing the work that she does and for fighting for us. And she's been on the inside. She's fought with she tried the Democratic Party way. She has dedicated her life to trying to fight for Medicare for All. And she's been doing it within the Democratic Party. And she simply, like folks like me, have just given up hope on this party and just recognize that maybe the party is too far gone. I'm not completely out of the party. I just voted in the Democratic primary in Massachusetts here. And so I literally voted this morning. I went and cast my ballot this morning, and shout out to, neoliberal, but still better than Joe Kennedy, Ed Markey, who I voted for. So hopefully voting against Joe Kennedy there. And hopefully that will be the death of the Kennedy, dynasty, particularly in Massachusetts. He'll be the first Kennedy to ever lose in Massachusetts if he loses. So thank you to Crystal Ball for that stat. Thanks for watching Radical Democracy Podcast. I'm your host, Kahmali Rose. Please like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and if it doesn't bother you, hit that bell below to receive notifications whenever we go live or launch a new video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you can afford it, do me a huge favor and head over to my Patreon at patreon.com/radicaldemocracy and throw me a few bucks. Whatever you can afford, it goes a long way, and I will greatly appreciate it. It helps the channel to continue to exist and to grow, and I really appreciate the support. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. All right. Peace. All right, that was a good one. That one's it.